Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 games of 2024. Brad, how many years have we been doing the top 10 of the year?
Oh,
Like,
how many top 100s have we done? Because we did
oh
this.
God.
This is probably one less than that. Because I think we did a
Yeah.
top 100 was the first
Oh
thing we did.
God, it's been like 8 years. Have we been doing the top 100 that many times?
Yep.
Um, yeah, so this is an interesting year, I think, because it's funny because I keep a running list of games and expansions, like a geek list for like my own personal tracking, and I'll put like best, worst, disappointing as I play them. Um, and for some reason, I thought this year was like bangers, like they were like, damn, it's gonna be so hard for me to figure out 10. You're not really. No, I feel like this year was actually not as amazing as years past.
Yeah. I think the good games were really good. And then
Yeah,
there was a big area of just stuff in the middle. And then there were
yeah.
some of the bad ones. It's like, because I was listening to a podcast about this year and they were talking about, if you go to BGG and just look up the 2024 games and then
Hmm.
put them in order, the highest rated one on BGG is like 142
Oh
from this year.
wow.
And usually they jump way up in, those, if they're really
Yeah,
popular, they
some of them
jump
will
way up.
actually make it into the top 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's also interesting is and this is based off absolutely zero data, but I feel like whenever I'm looking at 2020, like do that on BGG, there's like 15 or 20 2024 lists. I feel like this year there was like 9 or 12. There wasn't
Yeah.
that many overall pages for the year, which
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing. Like that's not these 10 games, 11 counting the honorable mention, are still fantastic. But yeah, it was just something I noticed as I was actually ranking them.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about the best games that came out this year. At least for me, I don't think any of these are like niche cases of like, well, it came out in 2023 for some people,
um,
but I think all
I
mine
have I
landed in
have
2024.
two that have a US release in the 2024.
Okay.
Because I double checked that. I looked to see when they were released in the US as
Yeah.
opposed to overseas before they were brought over. So
Yeah.
there's two of them that'll be like that, but
Okay.
everything's good.
All right. Well, so typically before we do an honorable mention, but I think this is gonna be the first time. What I wanted to do, because also for the best games of the year, I mean, really for all the lists of the year, expansion, surprising, whatever. I like to at least try and play every game that I can that I personally own. Um, but some of them were just not gonna happen, and it's almost the end of the year at this point. So the games that I wanted to mention that might have made this list, uh, and I'm not really going to go into too much detail. Wandering Galaxy, which is the same game, same company that did Freelancers and Forgotten Waters. I have it, haven't had a chance to play it, and they also haven't finished developing the app
Right.
necessarily. I think the first scenario is mostly done, but that one's not there. Ascension is another one that might have made it because, but I just haven't had a chance to hit it to the table. Harakiri and Tidal Blades 2, Electric Boogaloo. Those two probably, at least one of them might have made it, but they're campaign games, and I have too many campaign games going on. And then one that we have played, but we haven't played enough is Agemonia. That one most likely would have easily made this list had, at least for me, had we not have we played it more. So those are the ones I wanted to bring up real quick. If you're wondering where they are, I own them, haven't played them yet.
Yeah, mine were because I just got Daitashi, the
Okay,
the new game from Garcia that did Barcelona and all those things.
yeah,
I got that just a couple weeks ago and haven't played it, and I never have played Slay the Spire yet.
okay,
Um, and there's that new Endeavor Deep Sea that came out that everybody's raving about that I wanted to try. I never got a chance to.
that the remake or the
It's it's a it's
re-deluxe?
it's not it's a whole different theme. Like you're actually
Okay,
searching deep, and it's more modern times, and you're searching deep sea stuff.
gotcha.
But it apparently just blows the other one out of the water.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
I had never played the original, and I thought it was just a remake.
yeah, I have the new edition of the original, but I haven't played
Okay,
it yet. And then the Seventh Citadel, I wanted to try just because it's good solo from what I hear, and it's better than the others. The previous one.
yeah, Seventh
That was
Continent.
yeah. So that's kind of where I went with that. And there was just a couple of others, that I missed here and there,
Sure.
but that was those were some of the main
Yeah.
ones.
Yep. So wanted to bring those up, and I mean, just watch the channel for any of those that might be reviews or series. But without further ado, Brad, are you ready to talk about the 10 best games of 2024? The irrefutable list. Everyone else's list is wrong unless they have the same games as me and Brad.
How many
Um,
how many crossovers do you think we're gonna have?
One,
Just
two.
one?
No, I think we'll have two.
I'm thinking two or
Yeah.
three. Yeah, two or
Yeah,
three.
I'm leaning. I can see three, but maybe I'm more solid on two.
Yeah.
So let's go. My honorable mention this year is actually technically a standalone. It's not an expansion, really. I mean, it is more content for this system, but it is its own standalone game, and I am really enamored with this game. I want to play it a lot more, but really, I just have to find an excuse to get it to the table, and that is boom, Mythic Battles Ragnarok. Mythic Battles originally came out as Pantheon, that is about the Greek mythology. This is obviously the Norse mythology. And it's honorable mention again because I haven't played it as much, and it is still Mythic Battles. Like maybe next year, Isfet will be the honorable mention because it's still the same system, but with a different theme. And they have, slightly new rules, and each character and race and all that do something different. But you can combine them, which is just a really cool idea of getting to take gods from both mythos and have them fight against one another. I think, thank God, Monolith is the one taking, like doing this. Otherwise, it never would have came out. But if you're not familiar with Mythic Battles, it is a skirmish game where you are trying to either kill the opponent's god or collect these. In this case, it's runes. You're trying to have your god absorb them. And I can't remember how many you have to have. Five? I think there's like, it's either three or five. It's a majority of whatever is there. Um, but the gameplay is really quite simple because all it is, I mean, you have your team that all have unique abilities, whether they're squads of just regular soldiers or they're monsters or they're gods. But you have to keep track of all that and all the keywords. So that part's complicated. But what you do in your turn is you have a deck of cards that are your activation cards that you have like three in your hand, and whatever is in your hand is who you can activate, which is so funny that I like that because I don't like that in Memoir 44. And I think the reason is because it's my own deck, like that
Right.
I drafted. Which I guess the fix of Memoir 44 is okay, just buy another base game and have your own deck, and that would probably fix it a lot. But I just love the synergies of the teams that you can draft. The app that they developed can randomly draft for you. Not that it's going to be balanced. You might easily get abilities that do not work with who you
Right.
have, but it feels so epic playing this game. The dice combat system is one of the most innovative and best I've seen in a dice driven combat system. So I love this game. I'm trying to figure out a way to do a like tournament for
Oh
this.
gosh.
I have an idea of how I can do it. It would basically be a drafted god thing. Like so each of the gods would be would be with their team. And it would take forever. But yeah, that's my honorable mention. Mythic Battles Ragnarok.
All right. Yeah, I haven't played this one. I played Pantheon and enjoyed it a couple of times I played it, but it's
Yeah.
just so much content. It's one of those, like, I'm sure this has the same as Pantheon, but Pantheon had a couple of like cooperative scenarios, but
You
it
know,
wasn't enough for me to get into spending the money just for
yeah.
those couple of cooperative
Pantheon has
things.
significantly more more content.
Right.
But I think there is cooperative. Actually, this is getting more with the Isfet campaign. They added more content for Ragnarok. But yeah, and then we'll have the Egypt gods that I
Yep.
know. Like it goes down. Like I know a decent amount of Greek mythology, then Norse, and then way down at the bottom is Egypt. I'm like I don't know anything about it.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, my number 11 is a game that you actually brought up as being a game that you didn't put on your this list. And I fought around with it a lot, and I decided to put it on as my honorable mention, even though we haven't played it a whole lot.
Hmm.
But I can already tell by the bones of it that it's going to be a great game. Um, and that is Agemonia.
I'm not
Um,
upset you put this on your list. I was kind of hoping you would
yeah.
because I want to talk about it. It
Yeah.
is so good.
It's one of those things, because we just started the campaign, but it's I like the your characters are unique,
Hmm.
and you have these interesting story points that you come across. They're like, you get to these story points, and then you have to make your decisions on, do I try to do that? You have to pass a skill test or whatever.
Yeah.
It may add cards to the board of stuff that you can do, different things.
Hmm.
And I think one of the cool things about this is when you can tell a designer and a publishing company really loves their game, is because, after that first time we played it, we discovered there was this whole backstory that you could do on the app. And I
Yeah.
listened to it. My characters was like 28 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and you listen to it and it's really cool. It really, it's not just like filler crap. It's like good,
Right.
well acted out, well voiced. And
Yeah.
it's like, man,
The
they
app is really
really,
good.
yeah, they're like really building this damn world. And it doesn't take up a ton of space. Like the boards aren't very big,
No,
and
surprisingly, the box is huge,
right.
but the footprint, like table presence, is relatively small.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. It's like, I think having those big tarot cards and stuff are like your cards and crap for, you know, locations and different odds and ends.
Hmm.
And it's not as, at least in what we've played so far, um, it's not as detrimental to stay right next to your other, people that you're playing with.
Oh
Like
yeah,
we
like
kind
you.
of roamed off
Yeah.
and did our own thing.
They do a really cool thing of just kind of like when you're near something, it's kind of like, oh, I can see that over
Right.
there. Do I even
Mm-hmm.
want to bother? And the artwork is really cool. Like it's that journal type sketch art.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. The core systems, again, we haven't delved too deep into like the combat or anything like that, but it seems completely innovative. And like you said, when we were starting the series, we were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's." Oh, it has our backstories in here. Let's read it. And it was like, I think mine was like 45 minutes. I'm like, this
Yeah.
has to be a mistake. There's no way
Huh.
this is my backstory. So yeah, I could consider putting this on the list, but just because we haven't touched too much on it, it's and these other games I have played a lot more. So, but yeah, it's fantastic. I cannot wait to dive into it. I know this is going to be on a bunch of other people's lists who have had the chance to keep playing it, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
I should be getting mine before too much longer, so I'll have
nice.
mine as well. But yeah, the stamina stuff was another thing I wanted to point out, because
Hmm.
you can increase your movement, you can increase your attacks, you can do all that stuff with stamina,
Yeah.
and which are the little chips here, and you can do. you can meditate to regain stamina. I mean, there's these options you can do and stuff.
Yeah. The
So I'm
skill tests I
excited
think
to
are
dig
really
in.
cool because, like you said, it changes the board. The more you investigate and stuff, it will benefit you later on in the story, which is really cool. And the fact that every character has their own personal goal,
Hmm.
their own individual storybook, which is something that's not touched on a whole lot.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my number 11. Agemonia. It would definitely have been higher on this list if we had played it more.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, honestly, just from this is one of those campaign games that I don't see tanking.
Oh no.
And so like this easily, just from the small window or amount we've played, could have easily been top three.
Hmm.
Like that's how good this game is, but I couldn't justify it. All right. Are you ready for my number 10? My number 10 is a game that you and I actually played together, and I have since played it a lot more. The designers of this actually did a rules correction for this that might have actually made our initial playthrough when we were learning the game a little bit smoother. But I really like the theme of this one, and it's extremely unique, and that is whoop,
Yeah.
Peacemakers, Horrors of War. Now, I think this is a redesign of the Dawn of the Peacemakers.
Hmm. I think so. It's
Um,
definitely a remake. I'm not.
yeah, and I don't know what the differences are. I never played the original, but this company, Snowdale Design, has really kind of caught my eye because I know they did Lands of Galzir, which I haven't played. I own it, but haven't played it. Dale of Merchants, I really enjoy, and then there's this one. So they're really big on anthropomorphic animals. They might be furries, for all I know, or scalies. Like, not gonna yuck anyone's yum, but this one is such an interesting theme because you play as characters that are trying to stop factions from going to war. So in this example, you have like the macaws and the polecats.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
what it
the
looks like.
badgers.
Yeah.
They're actively at war, and they've themed each scenario as who, like, oh, the macaws are super, warmongery, and the badgers are guerrilla tactics. Like, you could easily just be like, oh, here's Russia, and here's, whatever, some other faction, other nation. But the fact that they're animals, they have their own behaviors to them. The decks at the bottom are like their behavior decks. And you are not trying to side with either. In fact, there's the green on that track is where you are trying to get everyone, yeah, you're trying to get everyone to be at to win the game because you're trying to get them to either quit. And sometimes if there's a faction that is extremely like aggressive, you might let their people die. Which is, I mean, it's like we're all about peace. Like we're peacemaker. It's like I care about peace no matter what, no matter how many men, women, and children I have to kill to achieve it. That's this game. You might be like, you know what? Let's bring their morale down a little bit. I know they're riding high because I have the advantage, but oh no, their their archer tripped and got shot in the neck. Yeah, guys, it's not war isn't that fun. But that aside, the horrors of war is not that you're actively letting people just die and you're like when people die, you add horror cards to it. Your characters get shell shocked and get PTSD from witnessing war. Um and that's the theme alone. The mechanics are so interesting because it felt slow when we were originally playing it. But you actually learn the nuances of the factions, what they're good at, what they're bad at, how you can manipulate them using your cards and if you're the swan, you have cards in that shared deck that are better for you, but you have to be kind of near a faction to be able to interact with them. Um, like yeah, it's a really brilliant design, honestly, and a complete change of pace. Now, normally, if this was just the six scenarios, I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of minimal, I think. But each of them has like four modes or achievements you can try and make. And I mean,
Mhm.
the first one alone is like, hey, don't let anyone die. And it's like win without letting anyone die. And it's like, how? How do
Yeah.
you do that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that good at the game yet, but it's it's a really interesting one. I hope they make more content for it. This is, I mean, with Dale of Merchants and Lands of Galzir getting an expansion, I think they could very much just add more factions and stuff. But yeah, it's a really good one. I enjoy it quite a bit. So that's my
Yeah.
number 10.
Yeah, this one was a surprise for me because I'm not really that big on the animal kind of stuff like that.
Yeah,
But this one, the theme is really ingrained into it. And when we played it, it was a big surprise.
yeah.
I like the how the each of the warring factions have those two different decks that
Hmm.
so it's not going to be the same. They're going to act different,
Yeah,
like all the time, and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
I
pretty
agree.
neat.
I agree. So that's my number 10, Peacemakers.
All right, my number 10 is another game that I played with you, um, and I will be getting my copy shortly.
It's Agemonia again. You're like, I
No,
like it so much.
this one I probably think is going to be on your list at some point. Um,
Doubt it.
but it's the theme of it is really neat, and the hand management mechanics are really good, and that is Leviathan Wilds. Um, this one is really I'd heard a lot of people talk this game up before I went and uh, ordered it, late pledge for it.
Did you late
And
pledge after playing it with me, or did you pledge before?
I think I did. It was right around that same time. I can't
Okay,
remember if I did right before or after or not. Because I think I did before because there was podcasts talking about it, and I went on ahead and backed it. But then we played it, and it confirmed my
gotcha.
deal. But pretty much with this one, it has an interesting deal because all there's I think what 16 different Leviathans I want to
Yeah,
say or something like that, and they're in this book. So then you play it out, and it'll tell you how to place out the dice and how to place set up, and then you are those meeples are like your character, and
hmm,
you're going to be moving around on those little spots strategically using your deck of cards, your hand of cards, and you're trying to remove um what do they call it?
blight.
The
Yeah, it's
blight
blight.
stuff. You're trying to remove the blight crystals and all that stuff too. So you're not trying to defeat the Leviathan, you're trying to like help him and cure him and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And but there's all these really cool things because there's like you can glide from one spot to another. You might want to strategically fall from where you're at, but as long as there's a platform below you, that
hmm,
you land on. There's all these cool different deals. And then, we only played one or two of the Leviathans, but when we were
yeah,
flipping through, there's all these like really creative ones where you're actually wanting to try to go up, like you're underwater and
yeah,
stuff. And there's just all these cool things that you can do with it and everything. And it actually will play very good, like multi-handed solo.
yeah.
This is another reason I went for it, just run two characters and play through it. But yeah, I mean, this one really it stood up for what I was hoping it would be, after hearing different people talk about it.
Yeah, especially if you're a huge fan of Shadow of the Colossus, which I'm not. Like I played the original and then I played the remake and I'm like, all right. Like but that game is so innovative and revolutionary, and this is a board game version of that. So it's funny because we played the first one at 2 and 1 and I was like, "Oh man, I wonder if it's just easier with less people." I showed this to a friend of mine and we did the exact same. We did the first one and it was at 2 and we lost pretty badly too because just poor play. Like my character, I went super basic, just high power on both my uh climber and my class. And yeah, I mean, I could shatter a crystal in one go, no matter if it was a 6 or not. And that was it. I was like tapped out, constantly falling and then having to like recharge and run back. It was brutal. So it was nice that it wasn't like a player cap thing where oh, if you play it at 2, the game's super easy, but if you play it at higher player counts, then it's challenging. Nope, confirmed that it is equally challenging depending on how you play.
Yeah, and I've gotten really to where I love these games like this that the map is the book,
Oh
that you
God,
play on.
yeah.
That's so much better than tiles and everything.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Anyone who does tiles anymore should be taken out back and shot. It's just like you have tiles in your game.
Well,
Come with
I
us.
have some of my games use tiles still that are higher than this, so I can't be too hateful, but
But if they were a book,
yeah, I know.
they'd be better. Yeah, and I get it. Like it's now I will say the production quality of this game is amazing. The insert is fantastic. There's a couple complaints I have. And it mainly revolves around that stupid fucking red ring.
That's what I was going to bring up too. Yeah.
It's too big. It's a good idea showing where the cards are being affected, but it's way too big and it gets in the way. It blocks stuff. It even if you're on that like where the green piece is, and that's the active player that's going to be affected, the stupid spiral is going to be in the way. So I imagine there might be a 3D printer, so like on Etsy or something where they made one that's smaller, but that's my only complaint, and it's really not that big of a deal. So
Yep. So that's
good
my number
pick,
10.
good pick, sir. My number 9 is actually a game you showed me. I know,
Oh,
table has been
wow.
flipped. It's way higher on your list. There's
Oh,
no
no, you
way
don't
it's
know me.
not. Huh, dude?
You
I
don't know me.
know. Now I don't know if it's gonna be your number 1, but I know it's definitely higher on your list. Um, and this is a game that I actually originally backed and
Oh, okay.
sold because it wasn't ever going to come out. And it did come out. And I'm not going to say I wish I hadn't sold it, but it is really good and I wouldn't be upset if I owned it. And that is
Yeah.
Freedom 5. This game had, I mean, this was like in production hell for all intents and purposes because it was delay after delay after delay. The Sadler brothers were like, fuck y'all, we're out. And then it's like, well, what do we do? I don't even know if they still had a hand in it by the end of the design process. But this was pitched as Defenders of the Realm with the Sentinels of the Multiverse theme. And I was like, cool, that sounds super fun. Then I sold my copy, and then you got yours, and I'm like, all right, we have to try it, and it's a lot of fun. One, the production value is really good. The box insert is awful. It is so bad. Um,
Come on, Etsy. Somebody get good and make one. They still haven't made
oh,
any yet, so I keep looking
you keep
periodically.
refreshing the page.
Yeah.
Come on. I bet you there's files that you could get. And you could, if you can find files for an insert, then you can find someone on Etsy who can print that for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. I'm not going to talk about this too much, just because I know it's going to be higher on Brad's list, but it is Defenders of the Realm with the villains that have unique actions and interactions with you. The comic book campaign kind of thing is really cool. I like, hey, this guy is playing the character I play, Chrono Ranger. All the characters have their own unique decks and abilities, and what's also neat is not only are the decks different, that would be enough, but the main actions that everyone can do are also subtly different, which is really neat. I actually kind of like that. Where it's like, hey, how do we get cards, how do we reshuffle? How do we, it's like,
Mhm.
well, if I do this, I get to draw 3 cards and you get to only draw 1. Stuff like that. Like they're not like majorly different, but they're subtle, and I think that's nice.
Well, and the thing is with those actions too on your action board, like some people can do things when they're in their alter ego, just
Hmm.
when they're in their alter ego, just when they're human or hero, but some can do it in both.
Yeah,
There's just they made really good choices, I think.
yeah.
But
And the game is super simple to learn, I think. And while I don't know if there's like a module or something, I find it to be a little easy. Because I don't think we've ever really had an issue winning. Um, but you're engaged the entire time, so it's not like and by turn two, you're like, wow, we already defeated every villain. Okay. Um, it is kind of the length of the scenario, but yeah, I mean, this one surprised me. I have enjoyed my time with it, but I don't want to drop $500 on it. So that's my number nine, Freedom 5.
All right, my number nine is a game I don't know if you've played it yet. Um, and it is a mid to lightweight Euro that is made by a designer that um, we both liked his game from I think last year's when it came out. But that is Windmill Valley.
Oh, no, I have not played my copy yet.
Yeah, when the last time I was over there, I saw it was still in shrink, so I figured it
Mhm.
was. But Danny Garcia, he kind of just came onto the scene with Barcelona. I
Mhm.
believe that was last year.
Yes.
And then he had this Daitashi just came out. That's one I haven't got a chance to play yet, but this one I kind of jumped on it because I mean it's like it says, it's a mid lightweight Euro, but it
Yeah.
looks really neat.
This
And
cover is just gorgeous. It's
all
so
his
bright.
are. They're
That's
also
true.
good,
Barcelona is really sexy too.
But but anyway, in this game, and I'm just gonna go ahead and go to the picture because it'll so you are they call it I don't even know how you say it, the Blue Man route, the Bloomin'
Oh,
route,
the Blue Man
you
Group?
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
But what you're doing is you're tulip farmers
okay.
is pretty much what you're doing. And you're trying to start a business, all this jazz. But you're trying to enhance your windmills. You're trying to do all this different stuff. So on your player board, you're going to have um, these gears, these dial things that you're going to have, and you get to choose your actions depending on that. So you can enhance your wheels as well, so that you can make your actions better to help build up your engine. Um, you can plant tulips in your field as an action, which will give you in-game victory points. So you could just go like, "Hey, I'm gonna just load up my field with a bunch of tulips," and that could give you a bunch of points at the end. You can build windmills on the main board to activate rewards and stuff.
Okay.
Um, you
Why
can
am I getting Orleans vibes? I think it's the map. What was happening to me? I'm dying. Yeah, like the map where the windmills are, that
yeah,
those pass. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
I got
kind of.
Orleans vibes.
But the thing
Uh,
is it's like you don't have to build windmills to win this game. That's the trap
okay.
that people fall into because I've played this 3 times so far, and um, somebody went heavy windmills and won, but then the next game somebody only built one windmill and still won. I
Okay.
mean, if you can get your tulips planted, if you can be very very efficient with your turns, you could still win. There's a lot. It's not like Orleans falls into that trap. As much as I like Orleans, there's that one kind of way you want to go to win.
Yeah.
You have to get up that the whatever that one.
Development track. Yeah.
Yeah, or when you get all those people like
Yep.
the
Yeah.
and
You
the
have to get
multiplier.
citizens and go up on the
Yeah,
multiplier track.
I mean that's kind of what you want to end up doing by the end of the game. But this game, there's several different ways you can win at the end.
Cool.
You can hire helpers. You can get contracts for in-game scoring as you're going. There's a lot of really neat stuff with this one, and it looks really neat once at the end of the game when everything's out on the board. It looks really nice. Um, so yeah, this one's one definitely try. Like I said, it's not brain burny at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of on, like I said, that mid to lightweight Euro, but
Good. Mhm.
it's not it's one of those. You're not
Yeah.
gonna be like
I
have a
don't know
headache.
what happened to me. It's interesting because my current job is so lax that you would think I'd want to be more engaged with like gaming and stuff, but because I have a friend who's been on the channel multiple times, Brett, his explanation because he's really good at these strategic heavy Euro games, but he hates playing them. He's like, I work all day, I don't want to come and game and work to game.
Mhm.
I'm like, I get like, and back then when he told me that, I'm just like, that's never gonna happen to me. But now I'm like, oh, is it super heavy? Yeah, like I'll play it and I'll learn it and I'll have a good time, and then I'm like, yeah, all right. So I don't know. I guess I'm just lazy now, but Danny
You've gotten
Garcia and
soft.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, luckily I haven't gotten so soft that I enjoy games like Jaipur or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
where it's like, wow, can we just do anything else?
yeah.
Um, but Danny Garcia, I anticipate this game would be good. I still have it, and I have the Barcelona expansion. Barcelona was great, so
Barcelona
yeah.
expansion's pretty good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm happy to hear that he wasn't like a one trick pony.
Yeah, I think he's going to be coming on pretty strong from the sounds of it because Daitachi is apparently excellent as well.
Okay,
It's just a lot heavier. Like it's on the heavier end, like more
gotcha.
than Barcelona. So he kind of has a range.
Okay,
So
good deal. All right, my number eight is a game I'm pretty sure you haven't played. And this one was kind of a random game that I got a chance to do a Kickstarter uh, preview of, and from playing it, I was immediately like, this game is amazing. And then the actual production copy is equally amazing. It is a deck builder, and one of the friends that I played this with, he sold Dominion because he's like, this is the game for me now. And that is Chemical Overload. Now, I mean, mainly this is on here because the chick on the cover is super hot, and that's it. Like, I mean, just have a cutout of her because I'm a psychopath. Chemical Overload is a deck builder that kind of fixes some of the mainstay deck building. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Dominion, but the ones where you just buy cards and they go into your discard pile and rinse and repeat. This one doesn't do that. There's actually when you buy cards, they go on top of your deck, and you can continue. Your actions are free flowing in what you're doing, but the point of the game is, of course, to have the most points by creating potions. And this one has a lot of really awesome uh, visual design that you need flasks to be able to create certain potions of that flask type. And instead of being like, oh, this is a three flask, these are three cost cards, you can physically look at the flask size and the art on the ones, and it's like, oh, these are the ones they go to. Not that that's how you're going to decide what makes, how you make a potion, but it's just a nice aesthetic. And the with these types of games that I enjoy so much is that you can kind of have suggestions of the type of game you want. Oh, do you want high scoring victory points? Then play with these sets of potions. And it's just really cool. Like, you're constantly being like, okay, there are some cards that go on in a tableau that you just kind of can keep adding coins to, or you keep stacking because it's like, hey, if you have six of these by the end of the game, it's worth this many victory points. So it's a deck builder and a tableau builder, and I just really like the potion making theme. I love the art and the way the potions look. The deck building is fantastic. And on top of that, you have kind of like an event deck. As certain cards are being bought, your toxicity level goes up, and once it hits a new level, you draw an event card and something happens that will just kind of add a little flavor to the pot. So, not really a whole lot to actually talk about this. If you love deck builders, I highly, highly recommend this one because it eliminates randomness. You have a hand. You can mitigate the randomness in this deck builder. And there's just a ton of content. And I know that they're making an expansion next year.
So
So
it'll go back on Kickstarter then.
yes,
Because
and they do
I
have a
was
solo
looking,
mode.
I can't find this anywhere. And I was
Really?
just looking. I was like, this one looks.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
I need to get this one, but I haven't. Yeah, so if it's
yeah.
going back on Kickstarter, that'll be good.
I'm pretty sure it'll be Kickstarter. And I think they do, or I know they have a solo mode, like a dedicated solo mode as
Hmm.
well. So yeah, if you like potion making and just kind of that, I mean, because Dominion does that, where it's like, hey, what kind of game do you want? Here's some suggested sets. I really like that, and Elysium has done that too. So
Yeah,
it's it's a fantastic, fantastic. It gets a 10 out of 10 for me, honestly, for just not that it's like super innovative or anything. It's not blowing the doors down with deck building, but it does enough that I really enjoy it. So that's my number 8, Chemical Overload.
All right, my number 8 is a game that we've played together. I've played it more than you have, but you, I think, enjoyed it when we played it that time. But I own a lot for this game. A lot of people might think it would be higher on this list, but it's just I haven't gotten into I haven't got to play quite enough to really get into the minutia of the deck construction and everything, and that is Star Wars Unlimited. So I've been playing a lot of the pre-con decks with this, and I've tried fiddling around. I need to sit down and really build some good decks with this, just to try them out. But I don't have anybody else really besides you. If you ever want to play it, nobody else really wants to dive in. I just went big into it. I own 3 to 4 booster boxes of every set released so far.
Okay.
So I have plenty of content. And this is just one of those 1v1 battlers. You create your deck and you're trying to take out your people. I mean, it's just kind of the same. But what's cool about it and what I like about this, Star Wars Destinies is still another game I really enjoy playing. It's close to this. Like Destinies and this are neck and neck for which one's better, but this one's still being printed, so that's why this one gets but but anyway, this one spans like the entire Star Wars universe. It's like from the movies, the TV shows, the comics, the video games, there's stuff out of everything, so you can make some really cool combinations and stuff like that. They've been really creative on their card abilities so far, even though there's so many cards out.
Okay.
But the thing with this game that I think is different from a lot of other games like this is at the beginning of each turn, you're going to be putting a card face down in front of you, and that's like your currency, I guess, to pay for things.
Your mana.
Right. So, but what's neat about
what do
that,
they call it in this? Is it your force?
Oh no, it's not called
Okay,
force.
I'm like, did they do
I
that?
can't
Where it's
remember.
like, this is your force.
But the
They
thing with
should've.
this that's awesome though is it's like you have to make it adds that extra layer of decisions because you have to put a card face down, and it's like, do I need this card for later? Because
Yeah.
everything you put in your deck is in there for a purpose. There are some abilities that let you get cards back out of that energy pool
Yeah.
and put back in your hand and stuff. So that's the playmat that I just got, that official
Nice. The warp
2-player one.
drive. Cool.
But yeah, I mean, this one I just need to get it played more. But part of these kind of games, just like with Netrunner stuff, I enjoy just the deck building. And I'm pretty sure there is an online port of this either being made or it's out now, so you can get on and kind of test your decks
Oh, neat.
and stuff. So
That'd be cool.
yeah, I think I haven't checked recently, but I think that's one thing I want to do. So anyway, Star Wars Unlimited, it's made a big splash when it hit. It's still selling.
Yeah, I was curious how it's going because Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, they already have announced next 3 series.
Okay.
But this last series, you can get booster boxes for cheaper because they overprinted, which is something I guess they're gonna have to learn because like it was usually about 100, 110 a booster box. And this last set now you can get them for like 70 because they overprinted them. But they're still they're still selling, of course.
Yeah.
But so maybe they'll adjust that and everything. But yeah, my number 8, Star Wars Unlimited, and I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah, this one, I've only played the pre-cons as well. I want to also like come over and actually create decks and just test them out and see the actual nuance of the systems and mechanisms. But this one and one I demoed at Gen Con that I'm totally drawing a blank on, both accelerated the mana thing. It's no longer draw, drop one, like
Mhm.
Magic, where it's a slow burn, or where you have to build your deck around mana ramp. So what's also is there's no luck of draw. Oh, I hope I get mana, or all I'm drawing is
Right,
mana. You
right.
all the cards are your mana. In that, like you said, you have to decide if you want to be like, do I ever want to use this card? It is not helping me now, but I know it will help me if I get these cards in my deck. So
Yeah,
I do like that extra decision making. So I did not hate this. This is just a genre that I will never touch again.
yeah.
But you touched it, so I will reap those benefits.
There you go.
All right, good list, man. We're just nailing it. My
So
number
far.
7. I know we've played it, but I don't think you ever actually got it. This is also actually kind of a remake and standalone. I think you can combine most of the content from the original, but this one is kind of a revamped version of it, and that is boop,
Oh, yeah.
Black Rose Wars Rebirth. Uh, this is pretty much Ludus Magnus Studios like magnum opus. It's like the game that I think that they've done the best with. It's definitely the one that they have done the most work on, considering its rebirth. And the original content of Black Rose Wars, you can still use all the schools. I love dueling mages as a theme, and this one is kind of like the Euro version of that. It's not like as wacky like Wiz War, definitely nowhere near Epic Spell Wars, but this one has a lot going on for it. I really like that
That's
board.
all 3D printed stuff, isn't
Yeah, that's
it?
sexy. But you have a unique mage that has an affinity for a particular school. They also have a unique card, and you can play where they have unique special abilities. But you're trying to just get the most points by the end of the third age and become like the new archmage of the Black Rose Guild. But the what's cool about this is that the Black Rose is also gaining points, which is kind of a timer. So if you're not doing anything to get you points, then everyone can kind of lose. But this system is so genius. Like every spell has two sides. And I guess not every spell, but most spells in every single school of magic has two sides. And you program your magic cards. Did you freeze?
No?
Oh, I thought you froze. You're like, I am so zoned out. Uh, but yeah, you take your magic cards and you program them either as a quick slot or you can do it any order. But then you have your three you have to do in order. So you're trying to line up where people might be. If you have a trap that you want to set from having someone go into a purple room, you might cast that first and then have your second spell be something that pulls someone into a purple room so you can trigger your trap. What makes this game so fantastic, one, because it's not about player elimination, although that is a part of it. Well, not that players get eliminated, but killing a mage gets you victory points. Um, the amount of schools in this game is insane. It's so good. Some of them are just so unique that I haven't seen in any type of magic game. Uh, and you can either what I do is because there you have a certain number of schools out is I have every person like every player kind of pick it's their school and then they pick another school to have out. Um, and you're not limited to what you want. You can just start creating combos or go all in on one. Be like I'm the destruction mage. That's all I'm going to be doing, which equally works. So, or you can go into a little bit of divinity and get some, precognition of what, someone you can, hey, I want to look at what that card does so that you can plan ahead to help your destruction powers. It's fantastic. The rebirth aspect, instead of destroying rooms like in the original, as you cast more destructive spells, it would damage rooms and the abilities would go away. You're basically restoring them. It's
Okay.
the same exact thing. And then the abilities come in, the unique tiles. So I I mean, I feel like I'm the only one who ever talks about this game. No one
Yeah,
ever mentions it.
we played the original,
Yeah.
several months ago, and it was fine. I don't think I would ever get it played because I mean I still have the original box and I have the Inferno box, which lets you do a little bit of the cooperative stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually got all of this Kickstarter or
Okay.
whatever, and I never did even open it. I sold it because I was like, I'm not going to play it enough.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It was good. It was just one I just knew I wasn't going to get to
Yeah.
play enough.
And this also added kind of a solo mode, but it's kind of an AI bot you can play with. If you have only two people, you can throw in like this AI third party. It's serviceable. I don't think it's amazing, but it does work, which is kind of impressive for how kind of like wild this game can get.
Right.
But yeah, if you are looking for a heavier, strategic dueling mage game, this is definitely the one. Like without a doubt, it's so good. So
Yeah.
that's my number 7, Black Rose Wars Rebirth.
All right. My number 7 is a game I don't think you've gotten played yet. We had a plan to do it, and then we never got around to it. I don't think. Um, this was one that was getting a lot of buzz at the conventions, so I went on ahead and ordered it when it, hit retail. Um, because of its theme mainly. And that is Rock Hard 1977.
I have
Um,
not played this. We did plan on playing it,
yeah.
but
This one is really good. Devere Games has really been delivering, the last couple of years with their themes and stuff. And this
what
one,
did they do that we didn't like? Clank? Did they do the Clank?
they didn't do Clank.
They didn't do that. No, that's Direwolf.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll look it up. I'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't do anything we didn't like.
But so anyway, well, I just now started really buying games from them because like what the White Castle,
Mm-hmm.
they had Red Cathedral, and then they've done a bunch of others since then. But anyway, um, this one was intriguing because the what?
Their description is amazing. From the website, when a Chilean, an American, two Spaniards, and two Portuguese guys get together, three things could happen. They're in a joke, they work in Hollywood, or they are board game editors.
There
That's
you go.
funny.
Um,
Anyway, sorry. I just thought that
no, you're
was
good.
really fun.
The other thing that I thought was neat about this is the designer is Jackie Fox, and she actually was part of a rock band back in the day.
Yeah, it was that cover band of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Is
Well,
that
and
what
they
it
did
was?
Cherry Bomb was their song. I mean, it was an
Okay.
original,
I
but
was
they were
I
in a
was
band called
kidding, but
the band called the Runaways was the name of their
okay.
band from the 70s. And this is like her first design and all that stuff. And it's about, she knows this world, obviously. Um,
That's really
but
cool.
but yeah, so it's neat how it goes. But the theme of this is you are well, it's 1977, and you're trying to make it big as a band. So this game will take place over a few months, that you're like, playing gigs, you're creating songs, promotions, all this different stuff. You have to worry about your job, but you're trying to work yourself up to be a big time
Oh
band.
wait, you have like an actual like you're not talking about like being a rocker as a job. You have like a side gig.
You have a side,
You
you
have
have
your
to,
main
yeah,
job.
yeah, because you get paid. That's how because
Oh,
like, and it's actually, it's aged paper money, which is interesting. It has like doodles on it, like rock and roll doodles that
that's
people,
funny.
but
That's actually kind of interesting because paper money would be like it's shitty in any game, but if this got torn up or crumpled, it would actually fit
yeah,
the theme.
yeah, exactly. So what's neat about this is like, because your player boards are really cool because they look like an amp, and they have those plastic
Yeah.
dials down there that you actually will turn them to, keep track of your stats and stuff. And there's several different rockers that you could choose from. But what you're doing is this board is broken up into three sections. There's, like, you do different things. This last one is like your job. So it's like you have to earn money to be able to pay to rent places out, or to be able to maybe make a record, to pay to make a record, or there's just all these different things, and it looks kind of busy a little bit, but it's not. It's very thematic. Like when you're making these choices and you're sending stuff out, it all makes sense. And it's, once you've created a demo tape, you can go and do this, and you may start getting more money and more attention, so then you can start going to bigger venues, and you're just working yourself up with all that stuff. And it's, like I said, it just plays for 9 rounds, and it spans from like April to December is what it says. And you're just trying to get the most fame and stuff. And you can, at one point when you start making, because your job is a requirement, to get money. But once you start maybe making more money at gigs, you can choose to quit your job and fully focus on, your craft.
That's cool.
And it's a really neat one. Like it was definitely worth all the hype that I was hearing it online and stuff. And we should play it just because
this was the game that a lot of people were kind of buzzing about at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's funny is now there's always that one game that comes out that kind of feels like it's now the mainstay. And this is one of them, because now I'm seeing a bunch of games that are of this exact same theme. And I'm like, I mean, you got Rock Hard already did it, So I'm intrigued because this theme is so cool. And yeah, I do want to give it a shot. Was it Kickstarter?
No, it was
wasn't.
Just
it was
retail.
Just straight to retail.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, really quick, another thing I wanted to bring up is if you see down in this bowl, there's like it's candy.
Is it cocaine?
Well, they call it candy in this, but it's to lighten the deal because it is drugs.
It's
more or
nose
less,
candy.
but it's just candy, so it's kind of cool because you can do more stuff. You can spend candy to like enhance stuff.
Right. Drugs are cool. Kids do drugs.
Yeah.
Brad, the teacher,
yes,
says
exactly.
do drugs.
I think some of my kids are on it already.
That's Adderall and Whippets. That's amazing. That's so funny. DeVere, their catalog, they're one of those companies that has their name on everything. I was like, they didn't make Dominion, but that was in their list. But I did find out
it's because they port like
yeah.
European, all that stuff. So they bring games over, and they also send games overseas. So
yeah. So the game that I own that was by them is Bitoku. So
yeah. Okay.
Which I've only played like twice. So I need to play it again because I remember really liking it. So yeah,
solid.
But you're right. DeVere has definitely, like, the White Castle. I think another one in that small box genre is getting ready to come out.
Well, and the Red Cathedral is really good too.
Okay.
And it's that small box, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
I just got the expansion for it and haven't played it yet.
Dope. All right. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe White Castle is getting
White Castle's getting one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Harold and Kumar expansion.
Oh God. Yes.
Yeah, definitely got to try this one. I'll probably just end up picking it up because I like the theme.
Yeah, it's nice.
All right. My number 6, which is funny that it landed at number 6, is unfortunately a game that no one is going to be able to get because the company is one of the worst. Like, they could only be worse if it came out that they, like, if they were, Blizzard HQ, their CEO was, like, sexually harassing its employees. Like, that's the only way this company could get worse. Unfortunately, this game is really good, and that's the kicker. My number 6 is Six Siege, the board game. And here's the thing. I have played this video game. I played it, not competitively, oh dear God, but I played it in comp, like, for quite some time, even though I was never amazing at it. And I remember whenever I first demoed this that I was like, man, I don't know if they're actually going to be able to nail it, because there's a lot of preamble stuff that you do before the actual skirmish. In the video game, you have your bot that you're moving around to figure out who's who and what's being defended and where people might be. And they have found a way, Carlos found a way to kind of strip all that away, but still have it in the game. It's so wild because the defense is hidden. They have 2 tokens. Some have a little bit more, but most of them have 2 tokens where it's a decoy and where they actually are. So you have to kind of, as the attacker who always gets to go first, each round, is trying to figure out who's where. And this is just such an amazing design. Every operator is unique, has their ability that matches as close as possible to the video game version. Um, it's incredibly tense. This game wouldn't be super awesome, but what they did, because of the round in the video game, you have a timer. The attacker has so much time to be able to either kill everyone or disarm the bomb, arm the bomb. I don't remember which one they're doing. Uh, but in this, you kind of have a chess stop timer where each side has a certain number agreed upon by the players that you get to activate up to 3 operators. And so it goes attacker, defender, attacker, defender. That's a round. And you can activate up to 3, but you only have a 5-man squad. So it's either do you spend time and activate only 2 operators on your first activation and activate 3 later, and how much time do you take to be able to effectively move? Because with that added aspect of the timer, you can't think, about every possible opportunity. You might move across a room because you don't want to run out of time and not realize you're in someone's line of sight, and the defender could be like, "Oh, okay, that's actually me." Then you pause time, I'm going to shoot, and your characters can basically take 2 shots at most, unless someone rolls really, really bad. You're almost not almost, but you could just get 1 shot, and being down an operator fucking sucks. But this game definitely benefits from multiple playthroughs. There's tons of different maps that have their strengths and weaknesses, lean more towards being a best defending map or the best attacking map. Who you might bring on your squad is gonna be a key factor on what benefits your play style. The thing I know about this is I've played against someone who played this for years on Tabletop Simulator. And I had only played this with like one person multiple times. And it was not even close. Like he was so so far above me in skill level that I was so familiar with the maps way more, kind of like a sweat. But like 6 Siege players are.
Yes.
But that's how this game is, and it's just one of those kind of chess-like skirmish games.
Yep.
It's fantastic, but unfortunately, Mythic Games just had to shit in everyone's mouth and ruin it for everyone.
Yeah. Maybe it'll get picked up by somebody else.
I'm hoping Monolith, because they tend to be Monolith or Simon are like the 2 companies that have taken Mythic Games' stuff.
Yeah.
So that's it. I think the most difficult part though is you probably have to get Ubisoft.
Yeah, you'll have to
board,
get them. Yeah.
Which is probably why it hasn't been picked up, but you never know. Like if this gets enough buzz, and I mean 6 Siege is still incredibly popular of a video game, and they have tons of new operators out in the video game that I would just love to see get made, like year expansions, because they're released by year. Right. I think they're up to year 5 in the board game, and I don't know where they're at in the video game, but it would be pretty awesome if someone else picked it up and was able to work with Ubisoft and 1, get people their damn fucking game, and 2, support it. But even if they don't, there's just the fact that your squad is just, hey, pick 5 operators that you want to do. There's quadrillions of combinations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a shame, but this game's amazing. So it's my number 6 Siege.
All right. My number 6 is the 3rd iteration of a game system that we both enjoy. This game was actually supposed to come out last year, but it kind of got pushed back a little bit to the first quarter of 2024. And it's I kind of wonder if it's going to be the last that they put out for this game, and that is Imperium
Oh,
Horizons. So this one is kind of their big release for Imperium, because this one has 14 factions in it. This one I still prefer playing solo. I mean,
yeah.
2-player at the max, but solo is still my favorite way of playing it. And it fits just in line with all the other Imperium games. You're going to choose your civilization, and you start. Most of them start in the barbaric phase, and then you just kind of work yourself up until you become an empire, and it changes your actions and everything. The thing that this box added that I really haven't messed with a whole lot was the trade routes.
Yeah.
The game is pretty in depth as it is, so I really haven't ever tried adding in the trade stuff, just because there's a lot of decisions to make in this game anyway. But I could not imagine playing this with more than 2 people. The game would take forever. It would have to take just forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one gets a little weird with its factions though, because like I think when we played this, you were the cultists,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was the Martians, and I actually started off in my prime, and I was trying to get smaller, which was it was hard for me to wrap my head around. That's why I kind of struggled with them for most of the game, because usually you're trying to build up.
They got wacky with
Yeah.
some of these factions.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't know if they're going to do more or not. I haven't heard anything. I would be fine if this is where they stopped, because they're starting to get kind of
You only
stretched
do
thin.
so much with like where it eventually starts to feel like, this feels like the exact same civilization as just a re-theme,
Yeah. Or are they going to do like Undaunted, and are they going to like start putting out futuristic factions and do the futuristic version of it? I could see them probably trying to do that.
Yeah, I hope not, because yeah, you have the Martians and the cultists, and those are already kind of black sheep
Yeah.
civilizations, but it's still somewhat grounded. That if they just started making up random factions for the sci-fi world, I wouldn't be interested.
Now
So
there is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I like being able to pick a real life civilization that's not represented in any game ever except this one.
I did. I just popped in my head. I remember hearing now, coming out here pretty quick. There's actually the Star Trek version of this coming out.
Oh,
It's called I think Captain's Chair maybe, and it's actually Star Trek themed. Like you pick
okay,
a character and you're playing Imperium, but
yeah.
in Star Trek world, which I'll
Oh, I'm
never
gonna
touch
hard
because I
pass
hate
on that.
yeah, I hate Star Trek.
You
But
have to. You're a Star Wars fan.
yeah. So, this was one of those that I still get played. It's awesome and solo
Hmm.
and everything, and there's so many factions out now that it kind of you can just play it forever. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so much crap out there now.
yeah. This is a solo game with a multiplayer variant.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, okay, good pick. This is not on my list. It was considered, but um, I just like all these games better.
Yeah.
My number 5 is a game that you had mentioned that this was like in that might have made the list, um, and because you were interested on the solo aspect, and I can attest that this is better than its counterpart, and that is
Hmm.
Seventh Citadel. This one, I've actually, funny enough, I cooled on Seventh Continent, and then because my taste in games has changed, I'm now reverting back to Seventh Continent. However, I do like Seventh Citadel a lot more because it is a lot more focused. If
Right.
you are wanting, because the way that I've heard these games explained is Seventh Continent is your open world survival game, and this is your open world adventure game. Like you can explore, you are sometimes encouraged to do so, but you have a narration book that are kind of chapter based, and you have a chapter goal. So while you can go out and explore, and some things that you pick up you might want to because you're getting clues, and there's an overall map that you're eventually just expanding out to find landmarks and stuff. Um, you can just focus on the objective and finish a chapter and kind of have it in a more bite-sized aspect while still having this completely innovative. This set the industry with these tile-based or card-based exploration. Now it's almost weird if a game doesn't have this, if it's an open world narration game, because this came out shortly after. I think it was the exact same year though. Is Tainted Grail did that, not to as much of an extent. Um, then you have Stars of Icarios. You have Aeon Trespass, Odyssey. All have these card-based kind of like expand the map as you go um, exploration, which is amazing. But what's also cool about this one is in Seventh Continent, you had like a shared deck of skills that you would have to do. Seventh Citadel, you are a unique character and you have your own deck. And so you kind of deconstruct as you go to fulfill more of a role that you would have, which is really cool. I like that a lot more. Uh, Again, you can own both, and you're going to get a completely different feel for both. This world is very unique as well because it's based around worms. Like the apocalypse was caused by, like, as far as I can tell, these harvester worms, or these druids set about these creatures to destroy the land. Um, so yeah, I originally started playing this solo, and it worked out. It works perfectly fine. It's actually great solo, but I like my storytelling games to be played with someone else. So I'm probably gonna scrap those videos and just start again as a new series. But yeah, it's also they don't do a weird kind of crafting system like Seventh Continent did. You have actually like a build and a pack of items that you can use, but the core mechanisms are still the exact same. Um,
So, so in this game, because what I didn't like about uh, Continent was that you didn't really ever have any direction.
yeah.
You could just, does this one have more
Oh, a
guidance?
million percent. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
a good example is you are given like that overall map I was talking about. Let's say it's telling you it's like, hey, we need to go find this village to the east. So it tells you go east.
Okay.
Like eventually you will find it, but if you, I mean, you have a window, like a time limit. So while you can diverge a little bit, you can go south if you wanted to and explore to kind of figure where more things are. Eventually you will you start to be like, I need to finish my objective, and you can fail. As far as I can tell, it has a fail forward system, but you will just go east, and if you'll find the town, and once you get there, then you'll be able to kind of advance the story or do whatever you needed to do there. So yeah, you're never lost. Now, I know Seventh Continent does tell you in a more general idea of where to go, but man, if you get lost in Seventh Continent, it's brutal. Like, I've played a game of Seventh Continent where it basically did tell us to go north or something, and we didn't. And I was like, we're not anywhere we need to be.
Yeah.
So you almost just want to scrap it and start over. But yeah, this one is a lot more focused,
Yeah,
which
I'll
is
look
good.
into it because it seems like the version of this system that I wanted with the original.
Yes, if you don't like the stumble around and just explore and survive, and even though Seventh Continent had story in it, it's your more Dark Souls kind of story where it's not going to be written out for you. This is written out. There is dialogue, but it still has that really cool sense of exploration. Like there's a an item I came across that was like this massive riddle on like pinpoints of where some treasure was hidden, and it's like, well, I'll come across that if I want to take the time to find it. But I also think because you also build up your settlement, so as kind of a settlement crafting, and as you upgrade, you eventually kind of build the map, your overall map, so you can look at it and be like, oh, hey, I want to see what that is. That's way, way south. And you can also make permanent changes to the map. There's a slight spoiler, but like if you contribute to this guy who's trying to create a bridge, you can eventually now have a bridge be built across a chasm. So you can now go more north immediately instead of having to go all the way around.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's completely enhanced for probably a lot of people's negatives with Seventh Continent,
That's
and
good.
it's great. So that's my number five, Seventh Citadel.
All right. My number five is the game that we talked about the very, very beginning when I said that there was a US release date in 2024. So that's why it's on this list. So BGG will say 2023, but it came out March of 2024 in the US. And it's a lighter game that I really, really enjoy playing. I actually showed this to you as well. And there's an expansion that just came out this last week in retail that you can buy. And that is the Veil of Eternity.
Nice.
This one,
I did see the expansion just released. It's already
yes,
out of print.
I just ordered it a day or two ago. Yeah,
Nice.
but this one, it was one of those, everybody was raving over this game, and I finally picked it up because it's not that expensive, and it turned out to be just a hell of a game, as far as just for a nice light, fun game to play around with. Pretty much you've got these different, I guess you can call them factions of creatures, and you're going to go through, and depending on how many people are playing will depend on how many cards get out in that little star deal, because they get set out in their factions depending on how many go. And they have the phases. Are there's the hunting phase, so you go around and you lay your marker on the card claiming it during the hunting phase. Then there's the action phase, where you're going to either tame the card, which is taking it to your hand. You can sell it to get the money for it, or the runes for it, or you can summon cards out of your hand, and stuff like that. So, and then some of your cards have like end of the round effects. So like in the resolution phase, different things can happen. The unique thing with this game is you can only have, what is it, 3 or 5? God dang it. You can only have, I think, 5 stones, I think.
Yeah,
4 or
like
5
five
stones
total
total.
stones, regardless
Yeah,
of value.
right. So I couldn't remember if it's 4 or 5, but so you could have all 6s, you can have all 1s, but you cannot make change. So you have it. So the economy aspect is really neat, and it plays over 10 rounds really quick, and it's whoever has the most points wins. And it was one of those games I've played enough that you finally start getting to see all the cards.
Yeah.
That this expansion, it's called the Artifacts expansion, and it adds another board and another layer on it. I don't know a whole lot about it yet, but
Okay.
It looks like it's going to make it even cooler. And this is just one of those games that is really easy to teach. You can play it. You can play it up to 4 players right now. I don't know if that adds any more with the expansion or not, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those mainstays in my collection, as far as just always having the bag to play really quick.
Yeah. This is actually one of the few games recently that I played your copy and then ended up buying my own copy, because I thought this one was brilliantly designed for what it is. Like I looked it up because it had been an amount of time that the stats might support it. People say it's best at 3. Um, I actually could see 2 because you're not going to see all the cards.
Right.
Like I think that adds an element of strategy. And I still remember the last time we played, I won because I had this card that was like, if I'm in last, I get a certain number of points, and I don't remember why, but you did it to where you like jumped me in 1 point, and I'm like, oh,
Yes.
thanks.
Yeah, that was dumb on my part.
I'm like, yay, because I knew that card was gonna bite me at some point. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, the card abilities are really cool. The decision making of what you want to uh like put your token on
Hmm.
is some of the, it's like, God, there was one where it's like, oh, it's like a dragon egg, and then I was like, okay, I don't want him to have this dragon. Oh, cool, that he got this dragon egg anyway, and he can hatch this dragon for free. That's amazing. But yeah, there's enough decision that, or enough systems in here that the decisions are important, which I like.
Yes.
So, yeah, I did not consider this because I didn't know it was 2024.
Yeah, I wanted to double check because I knew it said 2023 on the deal, but I thought I got my copy when it initially hit retail. So I Googled it and it said March 21st of 2024
Okay.
was their deal. So that's why I went ahead and used it.
Dope. Yeah, I definitely want to try the expansion.
Yeah.
All right, my number 4 is our first crossover.
Really?
Yeah,
Is it? It probably has to be. It has to be Leviathan, right?
it certainly is.
Yeah.
Not, it's Star Wars Unlimited. No, I'm
Yeah.
huge into it, man. My job is that game. Yeah, this is fantastic, and it just reaffirmed because we were making these lists, and I had just played it again. This, there's not many games that aren't campaign games where I play it and I immediately want to play it again. And that was this. Like we did our learning game where it was me and you, then Devin came over and it's like, dude, I gotta show you Leviathan Wilds. And it's awesome. It's so good because it's it's Shadow of the Colossus. And what's also amazing is like every Leviathan has like their own cards, and so their behaviors on how they're gonna react, and they're two-sided. And based off the difficulty, you will start off either if you're on normal, all of them are on their blue side or purple side. I can't remember. I think it's the blue is the regular. No, purple's the regular because blue is the blight. That's the bad die. And as the game goes on, whenever you reshuffle those 5 cards, uh, the more of them are turned over to their harder side. So the creature starts getting a lot more aggressive, and then enhances the abilities to where they're just going to be worse and more difficult. I love the idea of like the deck being like your grip, and that's like you have to manage your own deck. So if you're ever losing grip, you're discarding cards, and if you ever run out of cards, you fall, even though there's no fall damage or anything, but like you can take damage as if because you go straight down. So if there are any of these red spaces, you would take a damage, and you have to manage your blight as well as your damage intake. Um, it feels thematic at the same time as you're like climbing up, and because each Leviathan has different rules and complexity, how you're going to approach it is going to be different with your specific build.
Yeah.
So it's great. I'm glad. I'm so happy they supported it like almost immediately. I can't remember
Yeah.
how many new Leviathans there are,
I'm not
but
sure.
it's I mean all what is it called? Leviathan Wilds, Deep Veil. The Deep Veil expansion. It adds 7 new
Oh gosh.
Leviathans,
Yeah.
including the ever-changing Flux. New Climber, Edge, and new class Harvester increase character and class shuffling build combinations from the current 64 to an impressive 81. So,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, that turns it into 23 Leviathans to play. And I guess there's an ever-changing Flux, so that sounds like it might just be an infinitely replayable Leviathan.
Yep.
But on top of that, they have like a mutation pack, which I'm assuming hopefully comes with is in the Deep Veil expansion,
I think
where
it
you can
does.
make them
Yeah.
harder. So
Yep.
if you're finding them easy, if you have done the first Leviathan too many times, you can actually mutate it to where it's going to change it up even more. It's a small footprint game with a lot of depth to it, and that's why I
Hmm.
like it so much.
Yep. That's awesome.
So
I'm ready
that's
to get my
my
own.
yeah, that's my number 4, Leviathan Wilds.
All right, my number 4 is probably one of my most played games this year. And it is also the smallest box game um, on this list by far, even smaller than Veil of Eternity. Um,
Wow. Okay.
and I actually showed you this game as well, and you enjoyed it. Um, and I actually just recently played a 6-player game of this game, and it played just as well with 2 as it does with 6, and that is Faraway.
Is this another one with a U.S. release?
No, this one came out this year. I mean,
Oh,
it says
it
uh,
does not say
it was
2024.
it was a U.S. release. I have a
Okay. I'm
I,
like,
I
you
screenshotted it.
cheater.
No, it says it announced it's coming to U.S. retail March of 2024.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um,
Nice. I do
so
like this game. This was a neat one.
yeah, so this one is such a simple game mechanically, but it's got depth in thinking. You have to really strategize because pretty much all you're doing, I mean, the theme of this game is neither here nor there. I mean, pretty much what you're doing is you're going to a new mysterious continent, you're exploring, and then so you're going to lay out this tableau of 8 cards after you draft them face up, and then at the end of the game, you turn them all face down, and you start at the opposite end and flip it, and then you see if you score them. So if you look at this picture here, so like this game is over at this point. They've laid out their 8 cards because there'll be cards out there. You'll start off with 3 cards in your hand. You'll draft one, and then you'll put one out, or you'll put one out and then draft. Sorry, but and that'll go on your left. And each subsequent round, you keep putting them down this way, and then when this is over, you flip all those cards over, and then you score them from right to left. So you have to make sure that this part of the card, if there's enough of those symbols, then that card will score. So this one obviously would not have scored because there's no 3 pineapples when that one would have been flipped over.
Mhm.
This one would give you some symbols. This one just automatically gives you 4 points. That one, if you had 3 animals and a stone, you would have been able to fire that off. It doesn't look like they got that either. So this would have been your game, your first game, not scoring any points.
Dude, I beat your ass in this game.
The first game we played it twice.
we only played this once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, once I win a game, I never want to play again in case I
yes.
lose. So I remain undefeated.
So the strength of this game, or the important part of this game, is the sanctuary cards, which are the little ones, because you're going to be playing cards, and when you play them, if the next card you play is a higher number than the one before, then you can draw a sanctuary card, and those will always be face up. So if there's symbols on them, those will always count towards when you start scoring from right to left. And these little map symbols that you see on some of these cards, if those are showing whenever you do a sanctuary action, that lets you draw that many more cards, and you get to choose one. So it gives you more chances. So like these sanctuary cards are super important to try to get these first cards that you flip to score. So you have to make a lot of decisions on whether you're, wanting to risk going for all these one symbols and just hope that you get the right cards, or else it just doesn't score. These games for people that know how to play, these games are going to take 20 minutes, maybe, if you just go fly through. We played, like I said, a 6-player game of this, and it took 30 minutes.
Nice.
The scoring's what takes the longest, but it's also kind of the fun part because everybody's flipping over, the last card, and then you go around on the score pad and score.
You get to see like the hopefully the fruits of your labor of the forward planning, which is nice. Be like, aha! See, I planned for this, so now it scores, and that feels good.
Yeah, and there's an expansion for this too. You can pre-order or order off their company's website now that I still need to pick up. But yeah, this one is outstanding game for what it is, and like I said, it's probably one of my most played this year because I always have it with me and I just toss it out. It's super easy to teach. Usually the very first game, it takes a game or so for people to figure out the planning aspect of the game, but once they see it the first time and be like, oh crap, I didn't score hardly any points, then the next time they play it, they know what to do and stuff. So yeah, I mean, this one is an outstanding filler game.
Dope. Good pick. All right, my number 3 almost could have been a surprise of how good this game ended up being, because the company, I don't really touch a lot of their games, and the more I was looking at it, the more I was like, okay, yeah, sure, it might just be kind of a flop. But I kept playing it over and over and over, and then I finished the campaign really quick, and I'm like, that was amazing. And then I told you about it, and I was like, dude, you gotta check it out. And so I imagine this will be on your list, hopefully. My number three is boom,
Yes.
Fate Forge Chronicles of Khan. Company being Mighty Boards. They've done Vengeance and that's the only one I remember. I know they've done something else, but Fate Forge, I guess, is actually a tabletop RPG that I haven't ever played, but this is clearly the board game version of that, and it is probably the smallest footprint campaign game I have. Uh, what makes this game fantastic is how quick it is because it's narrative driven and choice based, so you make choices as the campaign goes along, but because it doesn't take a million years to play, you can play it again and make different decisions. You actually get to see the branching paths, and that is all well and good, but what also makes this game fantastic is what made me hesitant was it is a dice based combat, like dice resolution. You roll dice and you need results to be able to do anything. I thought that was going to be an ass. If you're like, I need to move and you don't roll any boots, you can't move. I thought that was going to be the case. No, the dice system is brilliant. It's so much fun to try and, because they give you so much mitigation without basically giving you the results you always want. Because you roll and it's like, oh, okay, you can spend the stamina to re-roll all your misses. Oh, you can roll the same symbol. Well, now you can change one of those symbols to anything you want. So more often than not, you're gonna be always be able to do something. And the character building with like the abilities is awesome. You actually get to hold more than one item, which
Yes.
is cool. You get to kind of have a build, not the most expansive Madara build, but it's definitely not primal build where you just get to keep a dagger in your ass cheeks and you're like, I hope I can do something. It's and then yeah, they have the tiles that you can lay out, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what the tiles are as long as you get the shapes correct. But I
Right.
love the how line of sight. There's none of that. It's just, oh, you're adjacent, you can shoot that far away.
Yes.
You have a card that gives you +1 range, just 2 tiles away that you could hit them. Um, the enemies are so straightforward. To learn what they do,
Hmm.
and it's kind of a it's I've come to realize that I love combat that is a puzzle,
Yes.
um, which is what this is. Like this isn't KDM or uh, other games Midara type fighting. It's more Too Many Bones or Sleeping Gods where it's more abstract, but I mean, they do deal damage to you. You do have to worry about where they're at and positioning. All that matters. I thought this game just sings so well with its core game. Its
Yeah.
expansion is honestly the reason why it is not number two.
Yeah.
The expansion kind of was disappointing for me, and that's the last thing I played. So I was like, eh. But the
Yeah.
core game is awesome.
I think what's interesting about this also is that it's not like, in a lot of these kind of campaign games, like when you take damage, oh, you get to heal up between each deals, but this one there's rest points.
Yeah,
So like you don't just automatically heal up. Yeah, at the end of every adventure, you get to heal up one health and one stamina, but it's like you have to wait until a rest point to actually pay gold to
yeah,
heal all the way up. And it's like you really have to you can't just go in,
yeah.
Leroy Jenkins and take a bunch of damage and
Yeah,
stuff.
if you no, that's a good point because if you now, I don't think this game is hard by any means. We never lost a scenario. In the expansion, we had to take an extra round, which gives you a corruption, but we've never outright lost. And even if you lose, it's fail forward for the most part. I think there's like two, maybe three scenarios where it tells you you have to win this combat. Other than that, you can lose, and that'll change the narrative, and you get to see those consequences because you can replay it.
Yeah, and the
Go ahead.
character, the bad guys are really neat too because they go in color order. They're always
Yeah.
that same color, and then the app will tell you if they're going to react before
Yeah.
you guys. Like you get to choose your player's order in the line of
Yes.
things.
Yeah,
But
like in this case, it's like,
yeah,
oh, the forest guard, it's going to be a player, enemy reaction player. You can decide if that's the rogue or the forest guard, but that you have to follow that structure.
yeah,
I
no, this,
actually really like the enemy reaction because at the end of every round, you go white to purple and you do what their card says. But the reaction throws a random wrench in it. You're not
right,
sure who's going to react
and only
or what they're going
one,
to do.
and only one of them reacts of
Yeah.
that color too. So
Yeah, they did a
yeah,
lot of innovative stuff by keeping this game fast paced, get you through the story. Now, what fucking sucks is it's a lot of reading and it's a lot of nonsense. Now, if you play it solo, so you just read it to yourself. I did not do that. I played with a friend and I read everything, and it's like you did the music and you did the sound effects with the women grunting. Why not audio narration? That really upsets me.
maybe with this next campaign that'll be something that gets tacked on
I hope so.
with
I
uh
hope so
with
because
foreteller.
yeah, or in their own app. Like they
Hmm.
like they designed their own app and it's a good solid app, which I think
Yeah,
they did some updates to it. Yeah. I really have no major complaints this game. I was always excited to play it. Um the sticker element is stupid. That was not
yeah,
needed in any way. And it all fits even with the expansion in the core box.
yep,
So, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna get the new expansion because even though I like the Clash of the Immortals expansion because it was more Fate Forge. I hated how it was like a side thing. It was
hmm,
a major story element because it ties into the core story of the base game, but it's like a standalone kind of thing, and I don't. It's stupid. But I did get a chance to play the expansion character, and she was awesome.
yeah,
So all the characters are fantastic. Now, if you are that kind of player that is like, I want to be the Ranger Forest Guard, but now I want to change to a Warhammer. You can't. I mean, I guess you technically can. You're just not gonna be good.
right,
Like so, you will have a role. You're gonna have your generic Ranger, Barbarian, Rogue, like that kind of. But each of them have a lot of ability cards, and you can have different builds within that class, which is neat.
yeah. I think this is one of those kind of games because it is such the scenarios are so fast that when I do finish the campaign, I'm probably going to go back through it again with different characters
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to see what different choices and stuff because you have all those
Yeah.
side quests you can do on the rest zones that
Yeah.
you don't always do all of them, and stuff because you don't have enough time.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I can definitely attest because for the main campaign, we did the Forest Guard and
The red one,
the no, we did the Forest Guard and the purple, the
gotcha.
Noble.
Yeah,
Um, and then for the expansion, we did the Enchantress and the red one. And just by those two dynamics were played completely different, which is
yeah. I'm
awesome.
playing the forest guard and the red character.
The
I can't
red
remember what the red one is,
mercenary,
but yeah, mercenary. You're right.
yeah. It's
So
it's great. So I hope they keep supporting it, even though it sounds like they're just gonna be standalone expansions. I really hope that they kind of do like a big box like this, and maybe these two expansions that are kind of side, and then another big campaign box. That's what I hope, but only time will
yeah,
tell.
yep,
So that's my number three, Fate Forge
good
Chronicles of
choice.
Khan.
All right. So my number three is a game I also showed to you and you liked. It's another game on the little bit lighter aspect. It's not as light as the last couple I've said, but you detest the game that this is based on. But this one has a theme that you like, and I think you like the choices that they made in the stuff. And that is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth. I've always been a Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel fan. But this one, more or less, I mean, it's not going to kill Seven Wonders Duel, but this one adds enough cool aspects to it that it makes this one much more interesting and thematic when you're playing it, because you are still doing the regular old Seven Wonders drafting, where you're going to build the shape out of the little cards, but it brings in, instead of there being like the tug of war of the war track and all that stuff, it brings in this neat little overlay thing, which is really creative, because one person's going to play, the fellowship, and one's going to play the Sauron's, bad guys or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you are there's going to be different symbols that you draft, and one way you can win is if the fellowship can slide this down to where they get that ring to Mount Doom, and then this little plastic piece sets on the plastic piece. So if the Nazgul guys are like grabbing, is it Nazgul? Am I saying that right?
Ring wraiths.
Ring wraiths, yeah, Nazgul, yeah. So when the ring wraiths are chasing, like if I draft that, then this moves on that plastic thing closer to him, to them guys. So they're never losing ground. They stay with them, but they can only gain ground. So that's an interesting aspect of it. Then these tiles up here are different factions of Middle Earth, and that kind of takes the place of like the science, I would say, from like the other things where you're trying to gain a certain number of those to win the game. And then there's this big aspect, which is something totally different to Seven Wonders, and it's your area control aspect. So you're putting out troops and towers and stuff, and you move around when you draft certain cards, and you actually battle in Middle Earth, and you're taking control of parts. And that's another way you can win, is if you control the big part of Middle Earth. It's just, the theme hits perfectly with this one. Like this was a great IP to put on this, and the design for it was just top notch because it fits everything that it needs to. It's like I said, it's still got the same base mechanics of the drafting and stuff, but it's just that added theme is what made it jump up so high. It also adds these aspects of these tiles up here that you can get and put in front of you, that and they give you a bunch of extra actions and different stuff too. And there's just a lot of cool stuff they added that was like, no, it was like, damn, why didn't they think of that earlier? It was just perfect.
I completely agree. I think this one is good enough for me to even go get my own copy, because I love the replacement of the war track, of the tug of war aspect. I always felt was stupid. I like the mini area control, super simple, but it's enough to be able to have thought as a strategy. And then even though you can win through like the faction tokens, but there's benefits you get just for taking those. And then there's the things that they added to this on top of the theme, actually not feeling super tacked on, was a significant improvement in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, so this one's super popular right now. I think this might be the highest rated 2024 game on BGG. Like, if you,
is it really?
No, our Arcs is, I think, but this is like right up there.
Arcs has just been rock hard in the hotness on BGG. It blows. Like, I'm like, god damn, it's still there. Is it? Do I need to refresh BGG? Is this bugged? Like, is Leader Games like siphoning money to the Arcs or the BGG web designers?
Who knows?
Arcs would probably be, that's the closest game that'll probably hit the top 100.
Yeah. So anyway, this was kind of a no-brainer for this list, because it was definitely worth it. And it's not that expensive either. I mean, for all the stuff, it's just a really great new version of Duel.
Yeah, I agree. All right. My number 2 is actually kind of interesting, because it's between this one and my number 1. It's actually kind of not even close. Like, my number 1 was, when I played it, I'm like, this is probably gonna be it. But my number 2 is one of the most atmospheric and thematic games that I have honestly played. It and it's such a weird transition from a game that they've designed in the same universe, but the mechanisms are just radically different, and I haven't seen in anything else. My number two is
Oh,
Dawn of
you finally
Madness.
got it.
I did. This is probably on my anticipated list for the past 3 years. And I don't even have everything. Like I have the four characters, and there's two more that are supposed to be coming out, along with like other creatures, as well as I know for a fact they're doing audio narration, whether that's going to be in-house or they're going to have Foreteller do it. Thank God, because if I would just complain about Fate Forge having to read out loud, like if we ever play this together, just sweatpants and a blanket because buckle up, I'm reading you a book. It's so rich and dripping in theme. The writing is honestly really good. Um, which is funny because the game doesn't look like it would be all that thematic. It looks busy as hell, and it absolutely is. Um, but what you do is this is kind of your amalgamation of Evil Within, even though that video game sucks hard ass. Um, that concept of Evil Within and Dead Space and just your psychological horror games, Fear, those style where you are in the mind of a wanderer, I think is what they're called. But if you're playing multiplayer, which you always have to at least have two, you kind of pick like a prime person, and that's their narrative book. So the other people are just kind of sucked into their mind of psychological horror and body horror and all that. It is mature themed where they touch on a lot of subjects, but it's not gratuitous in any way. They're not like all of a sudden just being crude for the sake of being crude. But there are definitely scenarios you come across and it's like, God damn, okay. Which I appreciate. I feel like that medium and that narrative stuff needs to be in board gaming. Uh, but you're going from location to location, completing objectives, trying to fulfill and get story points. There are three major stories. There's A, B, C, and D, but D is almost always reserved for like some very unique way of getting it. But as you're making decisions and having encounters at these locations, you are going to be gaining this points, and those once you have a certain number of points, that will determine your ending. But there's a couple things about this game because I will not be playing this game all the time. One, it's way too much reading. I originally was going to do this for a Halloween, like, hey, it's Halloween week. I'm going to do
Right.
it's so long. Like this is a 7-8 hour session to finish the game. It's insanely long. And it's two phases. You have like the exploration kind of phase, and that's where you're going until you get your ending story, and you also have to kill this abomination that is running around. You have to do those two things, otherwise you fail. Once you do that, then you go to your finale and do the actual ending. But I have done two characters. I have done the priest, and I've done um the farmer. I think is Catherine. I think is her name, and both of them just have radically different rules and ways that the game is played. It's it's amazing. Like if you are wanting a horror game and a rich, like meaty dive into a dripping with theme game, this is definitely it. And on top of that, the actual mechanisms of how you're doing things is really unique. Over on the right are the player boards, and you have these tokens that go in these five different uh, attributes, really, and the color matters, and the well that they're in matters because you could spend those colors and spend those actions for various, hey, re-roll dice or guarantee turn this into a success, defend against the damage. it's it's really kind of intuitive. I have not seen anything like that, but yeah. And then you have horrific creatures that get spawned. I actually prefer to play this in story mode because in the regular game, the monsters spawn so much that I kind of like being driven more into the story than just trying to survive these horrific
Right.
creatures. But if you like that aspect on playing on a harder Dead Space difficulty or something like that, then keep it as it is. So yeah, this one I'm very happy to report is amazing. Uh, there's just, I mean, buckle up. It's long and it's a
Yeah.
lot of reading.
All right.
So, which I had some fucking boomer throw a fit in my comment section of like, you kids, like either like I'm not even exaggerating. It's like you kids just have no patience nowadays. How do you think thematic games happen? Like it takes time, and I'm like, dude, you're clearly dying.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
shut up. Like, I was like, wow. I think I responded, okay, boomer. It was so, I was like, wow. Tell me how old you are without telling me how old you are. It's
Yeah.
like I understand how theme. I guess you have to have 8-hour games to get theme. And that's just
No,
how it
you
is.
don't. I
You
don't.
know you don't. But if you're willing to spend the time, and 8 hours is definitely an exaggeration, but it is long.
Yeah.
Like at least 4. That I
Yeah.
can guarantee you it is at least 4 hours. But if you're willing to invest the time, and I know the new stuff, either they've actually already sent an email about it actually where you can print them off. They did create a save system, at least
That's
a
good.
way to document the saving.
Mm-hmm.
But in because they're going to go on GameFound again or Kickstarter, I can't remember which one, to come out with a storage solution for saving it, which is definitely needed. Once that
Yep.
happens, then the length is a non-issue.
Yep. That's true.
So that is my number 2, Dawn of Madness.
All right. Well, my number 2 and number 1, I really, really fought hard to try to decide which one was going to go where. I mean, because it just depends on the day which one's going to be number 1. I ended up leaning into the setup time being the reason that this one's 2 instead of 1.
Okay.
And it's not that it's that bad. I'm just, when it's compared to the one I have at number 1, the setup changes.
Yeah.
This is a crossover.
Ooh, okay. If you said it's based off setup, I have to think Freedom 5 is your number 2 then.
Yeah, it is. Um, it was tight. Like this one.
Yeah, I know you really like this one.
Yeah. It's just, there is some setup when you're setting up the game. I mean, you have to put out all the meeples out and stuff and everything, but still, I mean, it's very, very slight. This could be like 1B, it's just,
yeah.
But I always really enjoyed Sentinels of the Multiverse, the card game, but I never really dove super much into it because it was so fiddly and all the counters you had to put out constantly and all this stuff. They successfully put this into the Defenders of the Realm system with Richard Lanius to turn it into where you truly feel like the heroes.
Yeah.
And then if you have the really cool version, like I have with the pre-painted miniatures, then it even looks cooler on the board, which these have the pre-painted.
Yeah.
But
the pre-painted is really good. Like,
yeah, unless you look at the eyes, and then
they're not that bad. They're not that Luke Skywalker from
that one game. Yeah.
That dude was dropped many times. Yeah, they're for mass produced, like pre-painted, it's really good.
But yeah, and they really did well with this because even though it feels like Defenders of the Realm, it's still it's not exactly that. It's not like it's a pasted on theme over the Defenders of the Realm thing because there's enough differences. It uses the skeleton of it, but because it still has the bursting phase. If there's too many of one deal, but and then you have a lot of stuff to keep track of, because you're always going to have a justice card that you're working on. You can rescue bystanders, which are going to give you, if you get enough of the bystander symbols, and you can trade them in to get a special, which is always really powerful. And the characters are so different. When we run, because we're through a pretty good chunk of the first comic book in the campaign, and you're Chrono Ranger and I'm Legacy, and they seem to work well together, because it's like my guy is super powerful and has some really big, super powerful effects, but then I have to be some of my actions that I can do. I have to be in alter ego mode before I can do a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I have to like do that. Whereas some heroes can just do whatever they want, no
Yeah,
matter
I'm a
what they're.
tech time manipulating
Mhm.
cowboy.
Right.
It's fucking
So,
cool.
and it's just one of those things, and you're always going to pull, your scheme cards are going to come out, and that's going to talk about what spawns where, and if there's a villain or a mastermind on the board, what are they going to do, and and it's got that same thing, like if you run out of that color of meeple, then you have to start throwing more bad stuff onto the board,
Hmm.
so there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. um but the dice, the colors of the dice mean nothing really. I mean, they're all the same, but
Yeah.
for, take it for what it is. But yeah, and it's just one of those things that it just, as much as I wanted this game to be good, and it took 4 years to get delivered, um it still even exceeded my expectations, even after, as excited as I was to play it. And it's just right there. I mean, it's super, super good. And like you
Yeah.
said, and I guess another reason this is number two is because of the storage, because I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. Each character has their own tray, and
Yeah.
the sleeved cards fit in it, so that's fine. But there's no place in that box to put all, like, the scheme, anarchy, and all those, because I have sleeves for all those, the custom
Yeah.
sleeves, but they're not going to fit in the box. Like, I have no idea what to do with them.
Wait, Etsy,
Yeah,
someone will do it.
yeah.
Like
So
3D printing is the best thing that happened to board gaming since, I don't know, Gloomhaven.
yeah.
Like it'll be there. Someone will either design it to where it fits all the other stuff and the character trays,
Mhm.
or they'll come up with like the guy. I didn't think Primal was ever gonna get one, and someone designed that monstrosity of an insert that worked out amazingly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This one's it's just good. I
it
mean,
is good. It is
it's
good.
yeah. So
All right.
number two.
And the number one game, in my opinion, of 2024. Probably this was the hotness, I think, of Gen Con for sure. I don't know how I got a copy. It's really funny because I got one and I was looking for it. I could never find the booth, and at the end of one of the days I was walking and I was like, "Oh, here it is." And then they were sold out. I went the next day and ended up getting a copy. Brad, what do you think my number one is?
Your number one. Oh God, have I played it?
You have not, but funny enough, you did mention it.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
All
I
right.
can't think of it.
It is the board game adaptation of a video game, Slay the Spire.
Gotcha.
And like I said, this it really wasn't even close. Like whenever I was doing the my top, like my ranking on it was like Slay the Spire and who cares what it's up against. Uh and here's the thing, I'm not even a Slay the Spire fan. I had played it and I'm like, yeah, this is fine, but I'm not really one to play like these kind of deck builder roguelikes by myself. I think they're a lot more fun if you're actually streaming. Uh, but I was like, you know what? I keep hearing it's good. They've turned it cooperative. I mean, I didn't back the Kickstarter because I was like, if I want to play Slay the Spire, I'll just play the video game. Somehow, making this cooperative enhances it to a level that I didn't think was even possible. It makes me look at Slay the Spire the video game. It's like, why the fuck is this not cooperative? It's just that amazing. Um, and there was a moment when I was originally learning, and the very first time I played this, like from the get go, you are immediately working with your team. I've only played, well, no, I've played this at three, but it primarily is two. But immediately you're working together on what you can do, who's going to handle what, because you can attack and defend kind of whichever lane you could. So how your cards are coming out, the builds you're going to do, the pseudo legacy style this game has, as the better you start to do, the harder the game gets, which is actually interesting because there's another game we'll talk about on another list where the game is hard, but as you keep playing, it gets easier. But this is like, oh, you finally beat, Act 2 or Act 3. All right, Ascension 1, now it's harder. um, but what's really cool is every single card is double-sided because throughout the game you can choose, eventually get options to upgrade cards. And one, they have a book where you can just look at and be like, oh, this is the upgraded version. Uh, but you could just be like, okay, like which one do I want to change? And so your deck building, which is awesome. Every character plays different because every single character has their own unique deck and their own unique upgrade cards that they pull from. And each character has so many different builds that you can try. And I have tried three characters, three out of the four, and yeah, it's so much fun. Like this, and I thought it was gonna be like a pain in the ass to kind of set up every time. The setup is almost seamless. The act bosses are brutal. Like I think I finally did beat the Act 2 boss, and then I can't remember if we made it to the Act 3 boss or if we ended up losing to regular enemies on the way. But each act has their own deck of enemies and their own unique bosses. Uh, so yeah, like I really don't have any complaints about this. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do because Slay the Spire 2 is about to come out
Right.
for a video game. I don't know if they're even gonna try because I think that's gonna be coming out in early access soon, so it's not even gonna be a full release. But yeah, this one is just such a fun cooperative deck builder roguelike. And because I understand and play a lot of roguelikes, whenever we lose, I'm not even upset. I'm like, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Set it up again, rerun it, and there's no tear down. It's not like you're constantly swapping cards. You're just like, oh, okay, here are the upgrade cards, put them back in the deck, and rinse repeat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I want to
this
try
was
this at some point just because I like the video game and
yeah,
stuff. I just never. I kind of thought, like you said at the very beginning, like I was like, why would I play this? I could just play the app.
yeah.
You
Now
know.
in your case, that probably rings more true because you don't have the cooperative aspect,
Right.
and that's what makes this so good to me.
Hmm.
Because you primarily play solo, well, just play the video game at that point.
Right. Yep.
And if we just won't play cooperative, we'll just play my copy.
Right.
But
That's
yeah,
true.
like just to experience it, like it really does kind of make you look at the video game and you're like, man, I kind of do wish this was cooperative now.
Hmm.
Because you would think, oh, it's my own deck, it's not really gonna matter. But yeah, you find ways to synergize, and you're working together on what upgrades you should take and how best you're gonna contribute to the team. Because you actually will, you have lanes like that character is gonna fight that mobster, whatever that the blue guy that's like, uh, that's who he is going to be attacked by, but you're not limited to only attacking your row.
It's a looter. It looks like.
Looter, okay.
Yeah.
Some characters are good about manipulating and moving characters and putting buffs and debuffs on other characters or the enemies. It's just so good. I have absolutely enjoyed my time with this one. So that is my number one game of 2024.
Perfect. All right. You probably know what my number one is, right?
Is it a crossover?
Yes.
Then then yes, I do know what it is. I'm amazed that I knew you were gonna like it. I'm amazed you like it this much though.
I love this game. Yes, like I even made the comment to you at one point that I think this pretty much killed Gloomhaven and crap for me
Yeah.
because of the speed of the scenarios and
Yeah.
the ease of stuff. It's like it's not convoluted at all. You just, I mean, like some of the you put the characters out as discs and some of them just have one hit point. You hit them, they're gone. You take them off the
Yeah.
board. You go through it. Just, I mean, a scenario may take, depends on how much thinking you're doing. But if you know what you're doing and you're fast, a scenario could take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But if it's a big time puzzle, it may take a little longer. Like the boss, when you get to some of those boss encounters, they take a little bit longer. But
Which act are you in?
I'm in Act Two.
Okay.
I just did the I'm trying to remember what I just did. Um I finished a bunch of cat battles for the second time, my
Okay.
second set of cat battles.
Okay.
Um because I beat the leader of Act One and stuff, and I've been going from there, you know. But the thing that is cool about this also is like you can kind of it, the side quest issues are intriguing to me because like you do these side quests and several of them are like you have to go to the map and it's like it almost turns the map into like what is that one weird uh game, it's like a party style game where you're like looking at the map and following clues.
Micro
Yeah, micro
macro.
macros. Yeah, it
That's
almost is
it
kind of
did
like
as micro macro.
yeah, because you like look at the deal and you're like, oh, there's the little arrows. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, gotta look around, find it, and then that tells you what direction you hit, you know, in the app to walk that
Yeah.
way, and different things happen. And it's like, so there's all these different aspects they kind of threw
I
together
wish
for this.
I wish they went lean more into that though.
Yeah,
Like that it feels like that was a good idea and then they kind of didn't dive any deeper into it. Like that is a really neat aspect of a campaign game.
yeah,
Especially because thematically your characters are like from the whatever the trees,
mhm,
your dirty ass druids,
yes, yeah,
and you're in this major metropolis city, and you've never been there, so that's a cool idea of navigating the city. But I can tell you, it doesn't get any much deeper than what you're doing right now.
right, right. And
So
the other aspect, you know, is there, you know, you have it tells you how many rounds you have to finish your quest, right?
yeah,
So you finish your quest, and then most of the deals is like, okay, now you just have to go to the exit, you know, and that's
mm-hmm,
part of your deal. So any enemies between you and that exit, you have to take damage for if you don't
yeah,
clear a path or whatever. And it's so you're always going to complete the deal for the most part, except for a couple. But you know, you've got to make sure you're clear, you know.
yeah.
And there are some of the enemy bad guys that have the abilities that doesn't damage you if you move through them and stuff. I mean, it just depends on if they're slow moving or whatever.
Yeah.
But
What's really cool about this is even though you get repeat enemies, you eventually start getting ones where you see their keyword and you're like, fuck these guys.
yeah,
Like if your character like the noble, the way I built him was heavy movement. Um and if he's in like arrow stance, he can actually dash out of a zone without taking damage. Because normally if you dash out, you take damage, but if you just move out regularly with dice, you don't.
hmm,
But he could do that. But the characters that have blocker that don't let you move,
yes,
I'm like, I hate these guys. And there's a lot of them that are like that, that are like, we got to take this guy out, otherwise he is going to be a problem.
yeah, like the red guys will take any range damage before anybody if
Yeah.
they have anybody else in their deals. You have to hit them first. Now I have my forest guard up to where he can hit three zones away and stuff like
Oh,
that and
cool.
everything. So there's a bunch of different stuff, but yeah, this one, you know, even the skill checks, because when you're doing, you know, you get these keywords,
Yeah.
these traits or whatever, and then if you roll these little gray dice on
Mm-hmm.
skill checks, whether it's an easy, medium, or hard skill check to see if what happens, and you put it into the app. But you get more and more of those traits as you go, and it makes those things easier, and it helps you with your story. It may, you know,
Yeah.
vice versa. And
Now, did you ever find, because I searched that rule book and I couldn't, can multiple characters have the same trait?
um
Because I had it where it's like, oh,
I
take the ability card, but there's only one.
yeah, no, I don't think, because your team probably will have one, because most of the time when you do a skill check, it's like pick a character, do
That's
this,
true.
do a agility test, and then you
That's
just
true.
look and
Yeah.
see. Yeah, because there's only one card of each of those
Right.
deals. So, and then there's one printed on your board, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
And what's neat about this also is like the gear is interesting and it's like, ooh man, okay, this item's really cool. It's like, does this work for my build?
mhm.
But sometimes you might just get a weapon that works great for you. And I like how you never are rolling a shit ton of dice. It's always 4.
Yeah, you have to
can
choose
have a
which ones
pool,
to.
but you can pick. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. This is just one of those. It just caught. I knew I wanted it because I heard it was the One Stop Co-op Shop guys were talking it up a
Yeah.
bunch. So I was like, that's when I put out that in search of for it because I knew you had it. And then you started talking it up. So then I got a copy, all-in copy from a guy for a good price, and man, it's just hit big time. Like this is my. It's not too long. It's not complicated, but it makes you think. It's just awesome game. And I will play it through again with different characters for sure.
Making different decisions.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I'm curious to know what you think of the expansion.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually.
And because I might just be completely overblowing like that thing, but yeah, I like the core game so much that I wish the expansion like a lot of games where it's like, hey, do you have this expansion? And if it's app driven, it's like Mansions of Madness. If it's telling you what expansions you have, it'll pull stuff from that into the main scenario. I wish it just did that. Hey, do you have the Chronicles or the Clash of the Immortals expansion? Boom, now it's tied into the main overall story.
Maybe they'll do something like that with this next. Maybe there'll be like an update pack or something, and it'll maybe change something. We'll see.
Again, if this game continues to do well, then the Clash of the Immortals and the next one they're doing that adds animal companions, but it sounds like it's going to be a small box like Clash of the Immortals. If they're going that route and then they do a big box overall story, I mean I'd be happy with that. It kind of bridges the narration because I am intrigued by the story. The setting is also really cool. It's fantasy, but like Middle Eastern, I think. I can't quite pinpoint where this is set.
Yeah, you get those vibes because it's a lot of like,
Saudi Arabian is kind of the vibe I'm getting with. It's not like it is still fantasy, but the weapons and the enemies are designed different, and it's a nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
I was captivated by the story for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So that's
all
my
right.
number 1.
Great pick. Well, that is it, everyone. That is our top 10 games of 2024. It's been a year, and so here's the 2025. Here's to great gaming, great friends, great experiences. So let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Let us know what your favorite games of 2024 were, also in the comments. And like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.